Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys. Wednesday, December 11th. Ian Cameron, solo mission today. Alex passed on the card today, so we decided let's give him the day off. He'll be back tomorrow. We have a huge card coming up, so just yours truly, Ian Cameron, on this Wednesday edition. 2 games tonight in the NHL. Looking forward to talking about those. There are actually a few bets that I didn't like it initially, this card, but there are a couple of bets that I do like, a couple of player props I do like as well. So we'll mention those. Rangers, Sabres, Ducks, Senators coming up tonight in the NHL. First, before we get into tonight's 2 games, we do want to look back on last night and specifically thank everyone for joining us on the Betcast last night. Our final Betcast of 2024. It was an absolutely outstanding time once again, as it always is. We thank everybody for being a part of it on the stream, during it. Always lots of fun. It wasn't as profitable as last month, although the night did end very nicely. For me, so very happy with that, but it was still a lot of fun. Obviously, everyone had a good time. Goose really had a good time, and if you watch the Betcast, you know what I mean. But it was absolutely outstanding, as always, to hang with the viewers and the listeners, watch the games, play some live bets. It was absolutely great, no question about it. Great to see, of course, Chris Otto also joined us. See him in the chat now. We hadn't seen him in a while, so it was great to have him on the Betcast, and everyone that joined us. Dre was on. We had both Robinsons as usual. It was just a great group. Goose, of course. We had Addison on early in the night. We thank everyone for joining us on the Betcast throughout the course of the night. Very much appreciated. And we, like I said, we look forward to many more Betcasts in the new year. We're going to have 2 Betcasts minimum each month starting in January for the rest of the season. So we're looking forward. And one of those is going to be a Patreon exclusive Betcast as well. So excited about those coming up in the new year. And we thank everyone for not only joining us on the stream, but those that tuned in. I mean, we had 600 people still watching live, at 1 a.m. Just absolutely insane. So we thank everybody for tuning in on the Betcast last night. As far as the games on the ice, a great result for me with the Philly and Columbus game. We had the Flyers first period and full game. We also had the first period over 3-0 with those bets as the Flyers get a 5-3 win over the Blue Jackets. It was a really good spot for Philadelphia, obviously catching Columbus coming back after a road trip last night in that game against the Flyers. And Flyers took advantage with a 5-3 win over Philadelphia. Colorado 6-2 over Pittsburgh, ending the little hot streak the Penguins were on. It was a very solid effort start to finish from Colorado. Another good performance in net from Scott Wedgwood, recently acquired goaltender, made 25 saves on 27 shots. And like I said, the big guns stepped up and showed up last night. All the scoring from the top line for Colorado last night, who dominated that game. McKinnon, Rantanen, and Lehkonen. Actually, not Nichushkin also scored, but 5 of the 6 goals were by that top line of McKinnon, Rantanen, and Lehkonen. So they clearly dominated that game last night. That's another good game for me. I had the Avs team total over 3.5. Carolina surviving San Jose with a 3-2 win. They had to rally in the third period from a 2-1 deficit to win that game 3-2. Not a pretty game, but effective, and a much-needed 2 points for Carolina after going 1-5 in the last 6 games. So a much-needed victory there for them to get get going in the right direction once again. Certainly the goaltending performance of the night took place in New Jersey. It was an absolute robbery. It was a steal from Stoli, if you will, in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't get credit for this, but I know on some Leaf, Jay Rosehill it is. He does the Leaf Morning Take Show. On the marquee, they had Grand Stolarceny. And it's true. Grand Stolarceny. Absolutely last night for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was the only reason they won that game. Shots at one point in that game were like 35-10 or something. It was just completely lopsided in favor of the Devils. But again, That's what you pay your goalie to do, steal you 2 points and steal you a victory when your team doesn't have their best. And certainly Anthony Stolar is back in his home state, did that last night. Austin Matthews with the overtime winner, and the Leafs get a 2-1 win over the Devils. Unfortunately, the system play falls through in this game with the New Jersey off a shutout loss. The previous game, still pretty good, though, overall, the record with the system play, but last night, no moss for it. But the Leafs, a big 2-1 win there in overtime against the New Jersey Devils, a game that they didn't deserve to win, but win it they did. LA Kings 3-1 win over the Islanders last night. Workmanlike effort from the Kings, a Kings team that's done a great job at home, been kind of up and down on the road, but they start their road trip in style with a 3-1 win there over the Los Angeles Kings, over the New York Islanders, rather, in that game. Winnipeg laying a beatdown on Boston, 8-1, the final score in that game. All Jets. They just, the defense and Swayman in particular, not a great night for either of them last night. Everyone seemed to get in on the act for Winnipeg, and then it got very heated in the third period. There was some questionable hits. There was some, then there was that fight that took place with, Gustafson was, basically Trent Frederick went after him, a guy that doesn't fight. That really got Winnipeg upset. Stanley and Kastelik dropped the gloves in one hell of a fight, as was Lowry versus Zadorov right after that. It turned into a very nasty and contentious third period. You got Joe Sacco and Scott Arniel exchanging words in a shouting match on the benches. Absolutely, it got really, really cantankerous and a lot of animosity in that third period. And it's funny because these are two teams that are in different conferences. They will play each other again late January in Boston. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch based on the events of what we saw last night. But all Winnipeg all the time. And like I said, even though Boston had a pretty solid record under Joe Sacco, played a lot of weaker teams, a lot of Sisters of the Poor on their schedule prior to last night against Winnipeg, and against by far the best team they've probably played since Sacco's been there. It was not a good night at all for the Boston Bruins last night. Speaking of not a good night, it's been many nights that haven't been good for the Nashville Predators, and yet another one last night might have been rock bottom for them. Calgary struggling on the road, especially defensively, and yet Calgary goes into Music City, beats Nashville 4-3 last night. Just another blow to this Predators team, and they're digging themselves a hole that pretty soon they're not going to be able to get out of. And it doesn't matter what happens. You can fire Andrew Burnett, Barry Trotz can put himself there as the interim coach the rest of the year, but the fact remains they are way behind now the 8-ball in the Western Conference standings with just how poorly they have played from the beginning of the season. That it might be an insurmountable deficit at this point. And Jonathan Davis, who was on the Betcast, we thank him for joining us for a bit as well, mentioned that this was the first time Calgary had scored 4 goals since the first 2 or 3 games of the season. And that tells you all you need to know about how bad, things are for the Nashville Predators right now. Calgary hadn't scored 4 goals since very early in the season in October, and they get 4 last night and beat Nashville in Nashville 4-3. So it's rock bottom almost, if it wasn't there already, for the Nashville Predators. Yep, you got to admit it sometimes, just a bad call, bad read, and certainly we had that with the Tampa-Edmonton game with the overs. Not even close, 2-1 Edmonton. It's a very well defensive-minded game, well-played defensive-minded game from both teams. Both goalies were solid. Skinner and Vasilevsky. And Edmonton, 2-1 against Tampa, showing you that they can win these kind of games and kind of reverting back to the way we saw this Edmonton team capable of playing during their run to the Stanley Cup final last year. Able to play solid defense. There's no question, but a nice 2-1 win there for the Oilers. Minnesota, this was big for, I know Alex had it as best bet. And by the way, Ryan Robinson had Winnipeg as his best bet. So both of those cash, including Minnesota, as they get back in a wild back and forth third period with Utah, but they emerge with the 5-4 win in a shootout over the Utah Hockey Club. Minnesota continues to play just excellent hockey on the road. Found a way to win, still without Eriksson Ek and Brodin. Probably not the greatest game from Gustafson, because that one goal, he just spit up the rebound, and it was pounced on by Bukestad there. But nevertheless, Minnesota, not their best game. They still found a way to get a 5-4 victory there over the Utah Hockey Club last night. Florida with a 2-1 shootout win against Seattle last night. And I hit a draw parlay. We were on the Betcast last night. I saw that all these games, Minnesota, Utah, Florida, Seattle, St. Louis, Vancouver, they were all 1-goal games and or tied. going into the third period. I said, why don't we try to throw a little draw parlay together just to see? Because I thought we had a decent chance to get 2, if not all 3, to overtime. And sure enough, they all did go to overtime, and at 15-1. And I know Rico and Barry, who was in the chat, even at a better price on that live draw parlay, 26-1, were able to cash in. That was awesome. Even though I only put a couple bucks on it, it was still awesome to see that. Getting the draw parlay in the Minnesota-Utah game, Florida-Seattle game, and the St. Louis-Vancouver game as the Blues moved to 5-1 as road underdogs under Jim Montgomery. It's been very impressive to see that. They continue to just find ways to win. A 4-3 win in overtime, and it was our guy. Yes, indeed. Dylan Holloway getting the win in overtime. Beautiful shot, too. Right under the crossbar, and the St. Louis Blues indeed get the 4-3 win in overtime last night against the Vancouver Canucks. Plus 160 was the price I ended up getting with St. Louis pregame. It was great to see that, and a great end of the night. And I do want to mention this because it was brought up to me in our group chat by Rich H., who works at a nightclub called Celebrities in Vancouver. And just so happened, you wouldn't believe who donned the doorstep of Celebrities nightclub in Vancouver last night, where Rich was working. Many members of the St. Louis Blues, including Dylan Holloway, Robert Thomas, Jake, won't you be my neighbor, Jake Neighbors, Jordan Kyrou, Colton Parayko. They all ended up showing up at this nightclub, and Rich ended up actually saying a few words to them when they were there, and actually mentioned to them that we've been hammering these goal props on them, specifically Holloway. So that's pretty crazy. Amazing story. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, Melissa, I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So there you go. And so the St. Louis Blues, after a big overtime win in Vancouver, did a little clubbing in the late night hours. Awesome to hear that story from Rich H. And like I said, that's just pretty cool. So now they know that the Ice Guys crew is just betting them hand over fist to score these goals. It's pretty cool stuff last night. Although it's also nice that Rich H mentioned that, because that kind of tells me they're pretty satisfied right now, St. Louis as a team. 3-1 on this road trip. You wrap it up with a win in Vancouver. You have a good time. Go partying in the club late night in Vancouver, and then you got to fly back home and face San Jose on Thursday. That's a flat spot waiting to happen, maybe on Thursday night with the Sharks, who are showing some competitiveness, and they've been a feisty bunch, San Jose, of late. So that might not be the greatest of spots for St. Louis. And by the way, that's the one. They still haven't won a home game for Montgomery yet. Montgomery's only coached one home game for the St. Louis Blues this season. And they lost that game in overtime against Philadelphia. So it actually could be a San Jose spot, believe it or not, on Thursday night. But good stuff. It's a great story from Rich H., seeing many St. Louis Blues players donning the doorstep of the Celebrities nightclub there, having some fun after a big overtime win, 4-3 last night over the Vancouver Canucks. All right, let's get ourselves turned to Wednesday night, where we have just 2 games on tap here. In the NHL, we've got the New York Rangers taking on the Buffalo Sabres. Rangers minus 140 road favorites, total 6 across the board here in this game. These are 2 teams where it's very difficult to back them right now. There's no denying that. The New York Rangers, it looked like after their captain, Jacob Trouba, got traded, maybe we were going to see them kind of turn a corner a little bit, find a way to maybe get back on track, get on a little bit of a run. They beat Pittsburgh 4-2 the first game after the Trouba trade. And then after that, they've dropped 2 in a row against Chicago and Seattle, losing 7-5 and 2-1. And now the Rangers are left circling for answers all over again. How do we fix what's wrong? And Laviolette, there's been times he says we haven't been at our best defensively. After the Chicago game, he says we're not making good enough plays with the puck. Our execution stinks right now. Is essentially what he said after that loss to the Chicago Blackhawks the other night. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out tonight. But I know for a fact I do not want any part of laying minus 140 on the road with this New York Rangers team right now. But in saying that, do you really want to take Buffalo right now? This is a team that's lost 7 in a row, blowing leads in a couple of these. Of course, the Detroit game sticks out, where they had a 5-3 lead at home against the Red Wings and lose 6-5 in a shootout. They have now struggled at the defensive end during this homestand as well. They played such great defensive hockey on the road trip where they went to Cali and went 3-0. And then they come back home and they almost forget defensive hockey because they've given up at least 3 goals in 6 straight games, all of them losses. So all of a sudden, Buffalo's kind of looking at the way to get things back on track. We'll see if they can do that. But they've certainly got a struggling crisis of confidence Rangers team coming in. But it's not like Buffalo's got any more confidence than the Rangers do right now with the way they're playing. What we do know is the Buffalo Sabres have given up 5 goals or more in 3 of their last 4 games, all at home. They gave up 5 to Colorado, 5 to Utah, 6 to Detroit. The Rangers are a team that, I think could make them pay for that. We have a series history, which has seen at 4 straight games in this series have at least 6 goals. We've had, 1 under because the total was 6.5 in that game. And then 2 overs and 1 push in the other games with a total of 6 and 6.5. So a bit, again, 4 straight meetings with the Rangers and Sabres have had at least 6 goals. I like a little over by Fecta here. That's about it. I don't want anything to do with the side. I can't lay minus 140 with the Rangers. I can't take Buffalo either. So it's an over by Fecta for me, given the series history, given the fact that I trust the teams to score right now a little bit more than I trust them defensively. Igor Shesterkin is confirmed for the Rangers. We project Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for the Buffalo Sabres to be in net, but that is not confirmed as of yet. So it's just an over by Fecta for me in this game. There are a couple of props I like, though. I like Jason Zucker, who got 2 goals the other night. I'm going back to the well with Zach Benson. Hey, Benson, give me a goal. Zach Benson, who scored the other night against Detroit. He's on the second line for the Buffalo Sabres right now. So I like Zach Benson as far as goal props tonight in this game. Vinny Trocheck's been good lately for the Rangers. I would look in his direction as far as goal props. And I would bet goal props for the Rangers on any of the players that certainly John Massey has talked about. Because he's right. They've been their best players. Kaapo Kakko, Philip Hedl, and Will Cooley. I think you got to look at goal props for all 3 of those players right now for the Rangers. They've been better than Zibanejad and Kreider and some of the Riley Smith's been nowhere to be found lately for the New York Rangers either. Of course, the guy they got from Pittsburgh, formerly of Vegas as well, in the offseason. I think if you're going to look for Rangers props outside of Vinny Trocheck, look at Hedl, look at Cooley, look at Kakko. Because they have consistently been some of the better forwards here for the New York Rangers as of late. And Hedl, like I said, he's been a nice fit too with that group, no question. He scored against Seattle in the 7-5 game. That might get him going. Will Cooley, of course, gets a goal against Chicago the other night, their only goal in that 2-1 loss to the Blackhawks. So, yeah, there's definitely some good options here as far as the goal props here. Between the Rangers and the Sabres. Some good options. So a game that I don't love this game overall, but thought the over by Fecta was worth a look. And like I said, a lot of those goal props are actually not bad here. Decent value across the board for several players on both of those teams to score and find the back of the net. All right, that's a good point from JD in the chat there. 5 of the last 8 meetings have gone to overtime. So you know what? The draw, I just have a feeling with the way these teams are struggling, there's a chance someone puts the boots to somebody. A lot of the overtime games have been in New York as well lately. The last 2 have been at Madison Square Garden. Not so much here in Buffalo, but it is a strong series history where 5 of the last 8 overall have gone past regulation. So I don't hate looking at the draw in some form either. All right, next up, we've got Anaheim and Ottawa. Second game on this Wednesday slate. Ottawa minus 250, home favorites. Total 6 here in this game. This one, the only thing I don't really like anything, honestly, in this game. I tried. Unfortunately it's a 2-game card. It's not a lot to like. I tried to look at something here that we could sink our teeth into, but I don't like the over much. I don't like the under much. I think it could go either way with the total. I think there's a chance we see John Gibson tonight for Anaheim. Anaheim may be saving Lukas Dostal for tomorrow night, because it is the front end of a back-to-back. They're in Toronto tomorrow night against the Leafs, so they might save Lukas Dostal for that game. So you might see Gibson tonight. Linus Ullmark is in net for Ottawa, and he's turned things around. Remember, he had that little rough spell for Ottawa a few weeks ago in net, but boy, he has been really good of late. No question. He's on a run where he's given up just 1 goal in each of his last 2 starts against Nashville and Detroit. So definitely some better signs in net from Linus Ullmark, and we know he's a pretty good goalie, and we could certainly see that here in this game continue. Anaheim, not exactly a team I trust. The only thing I did a small sprinkle on is the Anaheim first period money line. And the only reason I took it is because of the stat that Jonathan mentioned. It's the only team yet to trail on the road in the first period. They've been 6 times they've won the first period, and 5 times they've been tied after the first period this season. They have not been behind. They have not been trailing after the first period on the road yet this season. So for that reason, I didn't want, if you want to be safe about it and you want to be a little bit safer, you could go plus a half goal, minus 150 in the first period with Anaheim. And that way, if they end up tied after the first period, you win. I just don't like laying, minus 150 with that plus a half in the first period with Anaheim. So I just sprinkled on the money line, straight money line first period here with Anaheim. You can get that in the plus 160 range, first period money line here with Anaheim. That's about it. And it's only riding that streak of Anaheim not trailing after 20 minutes on the road to this point in the season. So that's about it. Like I said, not a game I really like. I don't argue with Adam Gaudette again. We talk about him a lot. Why not? He's been obviously a shocking offensive force for the Ottawa Senators, considering he's been toiling in the minors most of last year. And here he is with 13 goals for the Sens. He scored against the Islanders in their 4-2 win, 4-2 loss, I should say, on Sunday. So maybe a chance he finds the back of the net. Jacob Trouba, anytime goal, says Matty Robinson in the chat. So there you go, to find the back of the net here for the Anaheim Ducks. We'll see about that. Not exactly known as an offensive-minded guy, but again, sometimes when you're going to a new team, you feel that extra. Even though he's a defensive-minded player, it lays the body on you. Not thought of someone that's going to put up a lot of points, score a lot of goals, but sometimes when you go to a new team, you want to make an offensive impact. And maybe you see a little more aggression in Trouba from the back end offensively as a result here for Anaheim. Of course, we still got the same injury situation. Zegras still on IR. I think Zegras is on the trading block potentially. There's a lot of people that seem to think he ain't going to finish the season. He ain't going to last with this Ducks team beyond the trade deadline. He's just not a good fit for what Pat Verbeek, the GM, wants. He's not a good fit for what Greg Cronin, the head coach, is looking for. And that we could see a shipment out of town of Trevor Zegras probably at some point before the trade deadline. So, again, we're going to look to see how this one plays out. Like I said, as far as I also think Frank the Tank Vetrano here for the Anaheim Ducks is someone that, they've been waiting for him to get rolling a bit offensively. 6 goals on the year, really slow start, but 4 of those 6 goals he has scored in the last 7. So he has definitely started to heat up a little bit for this Anaheim Ducks team. Vetrano, Gaudette, prop options, I think, for either of these two teams. Leo Carlson, by the way, last I checked, I think there's potential that he's obviously had some injury problems as well, but I think there's a chance he's also not only going to be playing tonight, but maybe moving up to the top unit as well. We'll have to wait and see. I also think, because I remember Pierre Maguire saying this with Jimmy on the eye test, and I do listen to that show as often as I can. He thinks Cutter Gauthier is on the verge of getting on a red-hot run offensively for Anaheim. That, he's showing signs. It's obviously been a slow start, not the start that the former number 5 overall pick wanted, with his new team after making the stink about getting out of Philly with only 3 goals at this point in the season. But signs that he's making, more visible in the offensive zone he's been lately. So definitely something to keep in mind. It's one of those deals where I kind of want to wait to see if Cutter Gauthier scores a goal or 2 in the next few games. And then we start to see that, maybe the floodgates are going to open for a guy we know has got that elite finishing ability, or at least he showed it at the college level during his career there. That could be the time that we want to maybe start rolling with Cutter Gauthier props once we see that he's starting to get that touch. He's starting to get that finishing ability going again at this level. And once that happens, he might be someone you can ride for goal props moving forward. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate it very much. Like I said, I knew this was going to be a short show today, just the 2 games. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And one more time, I can't say it enough. Thank you to everyone that either joined us on the stream or tuned in and watched the live betcast last night. It was a ton of fun, and we can't wait to do more of them in the new year, January and beyond. We also thank everyone that is a Patreon member, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Again, goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, the goalie charts are going to be updated by Alex on the Patreon page by the end of the week. Also posted by the end of the week, likely on Friday, our first in-season Ice Guys Players Suite show. We recorded it last week with a former NHLer, a long time ago former NHLer. So some old school hockey stories and old school hockey recollections. I won't mention the guest until Friday, but looking forward to dropping that. It was a great interview. That's coming up on Friday on the Patreon page exclusively for members, the Ice Guys Players Suite. And, of course, the daily betting card posted each and every day with obviously sides, totals, player props posted on the Patreon page each and every day. Again, make sure you check it out and make sure you sign up. It's just $10 per month, and your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show, keeping it going in the long term. So make sure you sign up, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. And again, we will check out the Ice Guys store as well. Gear and merch available. Time is ticking. We're exactly 2 weeks away from Christmas Day, which means time's a waste. And if you want to get on board or get your gear and your merch in time for the holiday season. So make sure you check it out, the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, we got bargain bin special of the night and best bet coming up for me in just a moment. Alex has passed, so no bargain bin, no best bet for Alex. Total pass on the card for him today, but he will be back with us tomorrow. Matt Robinson as well, work obligations permitting, will be with us tomorrow as well. And by the way, I also want to mention tomorrow will be, there's not going to be a show on Friday. Friday, there's only one game. It's Ottawa versus Carolina. It's the only game on Friday night. We will tack that game on to the end of the show on Thursday and talk about it on Thursday's show. So Thursday's show will be the entire Thursday card plus Ottawa versus Carolina, the only game on Friday night. We'll be off Friday, no show Friday, but we'll be back Saturday, of course, for the huge Saturday slate at noon Eastern. So no show Friday with just the one game on Friday night, but we will be talking about that one Friday night game, Ottawa versus Kakalaki, tomorrow on the Thursday show. So looking forward to that. Just makes sense. We're not going to, we can just put it on at the end of the Thursday show and then Friday take the day off, and we'll be back on Saturday. All right, we got Bargain Bin Special and Best Bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Manscaped, Power Play Sportsbook, Raise Your Game, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
All right, shout out to all our great sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc. Check them out. 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night. We've only got 2 games on the ledger tonight on this Wednesday night NHL slate, so it's not a big slate. But I'm going to go to Rangers Sabres for my bargain bin special of the night. And I can't decide between the two, so I'm going to give you both of them for bargain bin special. Hey, Benson, go get me a goal. Zach, I keep referencing that old show, Benson, sitcom with the butler. That's what that reference is. But Zach Benson for the Buffalo Sabres, plus 470, best price at Caesars. He scored against Detroit the other night. He's playing on the second line. I find that he is making things happen for this Sabres team. So we'll go with Zach Benson plus 470 from that game. And I will also, from that very same game, go with a Ranger, and I'm going to go with Will Cooley. Will Cooley plus 390 at BetMGM, the best price out there for Will Cooley right now. Great price. He scored the last game against Chicago. He's been absolutely one of the best, most noticeable, most impactful New York Rangers forwards in recent games. So there you have it. 2 for the price of 1 bargain bin special. 2 of them from the same game, 1 for each team. Zach Benson, Buffalo, plus 475. Will Cooley, New York Rangers, plus 390 for my bargain bin specials of the night for this Wednesday slate. All right, best bet. By default, Rangers Sabres over 6. It's got to be one part of the over bifecta in that game. It's the only pregame bets I've made. So we'll go with Rangers Sabres over 6, minus 112. That is going to be my best bet. Rangers Sabres over 6, minus 112. My best bet here for this Wednesday NHL card. That's a wrap. We appreciate it very much. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Oh, someone asked about the over bifecta. The over bifecta is a term we use for first period over and full game over in the same game. We call it over bifecta. It was actually Matt Robinson that came up with that. It was one of the great genius creations that came from his brain. Matty Robinson, early in his infancy, being on the Ice Guys show. Do you know we're almost 1 year? We're almost at the 1 year anniversary of Matt Robinson being a part-time 2 days a week contributor on this show. Can you believe it? It's been a year already since Matty Robinson became part of the fam. So unbelievable. It's been that. It's already been a year, but great stuff. And like I said, we'll do some kind of celebration around. It's late December when he was on the broadcast. You know what? It's a short show. Let's see if we can have some fun with this here. We'll see if we can. When I look at it here too, is going back. It was around this time. It was like I said, it was around December of last year with Matt Robinson's debut here on the show. It really was. It was like it was definitely a long time ago. But I think this might have been the debut show. Let's go back in time, and there you go. Just how you got into playing hockey and the years you've spent playing hockey, all that good stuff. Tell our audience.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Dallas area, Plano, Texas, to be specific, about a half hour north of Dallas. I'm a 92. I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 actually on Saturday. So birthday's coming up. But so I was, 3-4 when the Stars moved from Minnesota. And then obviously they won the Stanley Cup in 99. I was 7 years old. That really kickstarted hockey, not just for me, but the whole town or the whole city of Dallas. I think at the time there was maybe one rink with 2 sheets of ice. And I think now there's upwards of 10, 11 rinks, all with 2 sheets. So I grew up playing youth hockey in Dallas, ended up playing juniors in the North American Hockey League for a couple of years. Also spent some time in the AJ out east, the Atlantic Junior Hockey League, not to be confused with the Alberta League. And then I ended up just playing club hockey at the University of Arkansas. Thought my competitive hockey was over after that, and ended up jumping on a team out here in Reno, Nevada, playing a little senior A. So still playing hockey, still loving it, but also getting into sports betting over the last couple of years as well. So
no doubt. There you have it. That was a clip from last year. That was Thursday, December the 21st. Thursday, December the 21st, 2023. So we are indeed almost 1 year ago when Matt Robinson made his Ice Guys show debut. And at the time, we thought he was just going to be a one-off guest. And now the next thing you know, he ended up being a regular and 2 days a week, pretty much. I think he started the 2 days a week thing in like mid to late January, and the rest is history. And now we can't get rid of him. I'm kidding, of course. But don't act like you were a blimp back then, Matt. Matt's talking about how fat he was back then. It's not like you were the size of a like I said, you weren't a blimp back then. It's not like you were that overweight, but I get what you're saying. You've worked on it. So credit to you for that. So good times. 1 year already with Matt Robinson on the show. Good stuff. All right. With that in mind, it is time to wrap things up. We appreciate everyone joining us. Hit the like button. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Tuesday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday, Sunday, Monday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the 2 NHL games, and good luck. We will be back tomorrow on Thursday, a loaded Thursday card coming your way at 2 p.m. Eastern right here on the Ice Guys.